Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make cinnamon rolls, and we are actually making 2 pans full of cinnamon rolls. First thing you're going to do, and I'm going to show you in 2-day parts. Okay, so in day 1, you're going to take 2 cups of flour and put that in your mixing bowl. And then you're going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast. It says 1 package in your directions, but that is 1 package is equal to that. So you're going to put that together in the mixing bowl, and then it tells you next to mix. I melted the butter. You'll notice that it is melted, so it's 1/3 cup, which is like 5 1/3 tablespoons. I'll already have that cut for you, so just go ahead and melt that in the microwave. Then you can add 1 cup of milk to that, and you can add your sugar to that, and you can add a little bit of, you can actually add your salt, a teaspoon of salt as well. We're going to go ahead and mix this up, and we need it to activate the yeast. Remember, yeast needs a couple things. It needs sugar, needs to be fed, and it also needs warmth. So this is way too cold, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the microwave for about 20 seconds. I'm going to test it on my wrist. If it's not ready, then I'm going to put it back in for another 10 seconds and another 10 seconds until I get it just to about 110 degrees. Okay, I've heated this up, and it actually took a little longer than I thought. It took about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So depending on how hot you have your butter when you first start, that might make it a little less time. But again, you want to take your mixture, you want to drop it on the inside of your wrist, and it needs to be where you feel just a little warm. It should be about 110 degrees, and your body's 98.6. So just a little bit warmer than your body's temperature. You then are going to take this to your 2 cups and your 1 tablespoon of yeast, and you're going to add this warm mixture. And this is going to activate your yeast. Okay, and at this point, you should probably use a really a tough spoon, not a spatula or rubber scraper. So we're going to mix that up really well. And then we're going to start adding flour until, or we're going to add our eggs, I'm sorry. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our eggs. And we are going to use the mixer on this, and we're going to beat for about a half a minute to get those well dispersed, and then after about a half a minute we're going to turn it on high for 3 minutes. So once they get in there so they're not splashing all over the place, then we can go ahead and put this on a higher speed, and we're going to let this go. Look at your clock time, because guys, you're not good estimators of time. So look at, for me, I'm going to look at the clock and I know exactly when 3 minutes is up, and I'll be back when that's up. As I mix this for 3 minutes, 3 minutes is up, so I'm going to go ahead and take this batter out. You are no longer going to use the mixer. So at this point, I'm going to take this alongside here, and hopefully you can see in the mirror what we're doing here. Is I'm going to be adding enough flour. Now, the recipe calls for 4 to 4.5 cups. Now, I already added 2, so you guys need to do the math in your head. So if I've already added 2, and it says 4 to 4.5, then that means that you need to add 2 more cups, and that half cup, you may or may not need that. So we're going to go ahead and stir in another cup. So guys, remember, 2 cups. I'm not going to be here to show you that. And I'm going to add in that cup, get it mixed in pretty well. And you do need to use a spoon for this. Now already, it's a pretty thick batter right now. Already turning into a dough. So I'm going to be cautious. I'm not going to add it all at once. I'm going to add about half of it. And again, I need to mix that in. And so that's really only 3.5 cups. And it's already looking to where I'm about ready to knead the dough. So I'm going to mix in a little bit more. So actually, just so you know how much I've used about 3 3/4 cup. And at this point, I'm going to start kneading it rather than keep mixing like that. So again, dust your countertop. I'm just going to tell you that I've already seen some kids that put like a half a cup on here after I was telling them not to do that. So guys, watch that. You just need a thin layer. And then the consistency of your dough will determine how much more you add. If it's really sticky, you're going to add a lot more. If it's not very sticky, then you don't need to add as much. So transfer all the ingredients from your mixing bowl the best you can. Okay, you might want to put a little flour on your hands, and at this point, hey, you might want to film down here now.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to go ahead and start kneading. If it's sticky, then keep adding more flour. Like it's stuck a little bit to my hand, the palms of my hands here, but not too much. So I don't need to add a ton more. Like I'm not going to take that whole cup and pour it in there. I'm just going to be very cautious about how much I add. And remember, a sticky dough is a happy dough. And also you can mop up. If you have flour on your counter, use that. Kind of mop up what you have out on the counter already. And so you're going to look at the clock. I need everybody to be looking at the clock because like I said, you guys aren't very good about figuring time. So look at the clock, and then from there you need to go 5 to 7 minutes. If it's sticky, add more. If it's not, so I didn't even use 4 cups. Now the recipe says 4 to 4.5. So here, again, I just want to caution you, you guys are really the judges of how much flour you're going to use. And so you really need to be paying attention, not just dropping in 4.5 cups. Because I can tell you, if you do that, it's going to be too much. Just from what I'm doing right now, that is going to be way too much. So I'm going to knead for 3 minutes, and I'll get right back with you.
Good.
Okay. All right, so we've been kneading the dough now for 5 minutes, and it's looking and feeling really good. So it's nice and soft, and notice that I kind of tuck in. Before I put it in the bag, I kind of tuck the sides, all the insides into the middle like this. And now I can take it, and this is going to be the end of day 1. Day 1, you are going to take your bag, open it up very wide, and again, a film. We just need a slight film, not dripping, but we do need to make sure that we get stuff in the corners of the bag. We're going to label it with your period and kitchen number. You're going to put it in the bag and close it up, and then you're going to stick it in the refrigerator on the shelf that's labeled with your period number. Make sure you get all the air out of it. So I have all the air out of it, and when you put it on the tray, don't tuck it like this. If you sat it on the tray like this, you are keeping it because it can't grow because this is stuck underneath. So you need to make sure when you put it in that you're allowing this free so that it can continue to grow as it's sitting in the refrigerator. This is the cool rise method, and we will do this overnight, and the next day you will come in, and I'm going to show you next what you will be doing with your dough then. Okay, so this is day 2 of cinnamon rolls, and so I'm going to show you first of all how to prepare the pans, and then I'm going to show you how to roll out the dough and also how to make the glaze. So first of all, shiny side down, because sometimes they say that the shiny side reflects the heat. So we're going to do this. Now, the problem with this, you think it's a very simple thing, but students are constantly tearing the foil. So you actually need to put your hand in here and kind of lift up the sides to actually get it in, because I just assumed everybody knew how to put foil in a pan, and to my surprise, many students didn't. And a lot of students, when they put it in, it would look like, I'll show you an example of what not to do. They would do this, and then they have no surface area for their cinnamon rolls. So make sure you press it down in the corners before you go ahead and secure it around the edges. So push it down in the corners, then go ahead and secure it around there. The nice thing about this is going to be handy because when they come out of the ovens and they're really hot, what we're going to do is we're going to just take them and we can lift them out onto our counter, and that way it makes them a little easier to deal with. So now I'm going to show you how to roll out your dough. So here's my dough. Look how beautiful, and it's very fluffy and airy, and you can just tell by feeling it. And so I'm going to take this out, and I want you guys to be careful when you're doing this because you want that air to kind of stay in there. And I know that some of the videos that you're going to be watching are going to tell you to punch down the dough. Well, you could do that, but what happens is it activates the gluten, and it ends up causing you more grief than needed. So once you take it out and kind of just not even punch it down, but take your bench scraper and kind of cut your dough in half. Okay, because when I roll out, this is going to make 24. And then you can put this over, kind of maybe cover it with some plastic wrap, and then kind of get it started in kind of somewhat of an oval shape. Because what we want is a rectangle. So think of your door, the classroom door or something, that's the size that we're gonna want. Now, if it does stick to the counter or whatever, you could put a little bit of flour down. We probably don't need a ton, just a tiny little sprinkling, guys. You know, do not overdo it. And I can roll my thing in this, and now I start this way, because I kind of had it in an oval. So now I'm gonna start from the center, and notice I'm not pressing really hard, I'm going from the center and out, center and out like this. And basically, I want to end up with that rectangular shape. So I kind of want to make sure. And it should be kind of like an 11 by 13 sheet of paper. Now, if you need more weight as you get to this part, you can go ahead and put some pressure on it then. So you can put your hands here, and then you can roll out to the outside edges, and that will help you to roll more easily. Now, if you end up and you forget and you mess with the dough and you develop, the gluten, you're kneading it, and then you go to roll out and it keeps stretching back in and it keeps stretching back in, you basically activated that gluten. And so what you're going to basically have to do is just kind of cover it with a towel and let it rest for a little bit. And that gives the gluten time to relax and makes it able for you to complete the next step. Now, notice I want a square. So if you have to, you're the boss. So being the boss, you don't let the dough boss you around, you boss the dough around. You basically tell it where to go. So I want corners for this process. Now we're going to go ahead and take our butter. We're going to melt that in the microwave for probably 30 seconds.